welcome back to the JR Takes Sportscast. As always, Jonah and Ryan coming at you live from the Pacific Northwest. And Jonah, not a fun weekend to be a Seattle sports fan, unless you're a fan of the Huskies, I guess.
That's why I'm wearing this. Yeah.
That's the only franchise that really deserves to be repped right now.
And the Cougs. Shout out to the Cougs.
True. Yeah. But yeah, I guess let's just go through the Mariners real quick. Not a whole lot to say, but I believe it was a 0-for-3 weekend, or
0-for-3 weekend, and then a loss last night, pushing them to their longest losing streak of the season. But I'm going to guarantee a win tonight. You heard it here first. But yeah, they hopefully will snap their 4-game losing skid, longest losing streak of the year. And if they want to make the playoffs, they better snap it tonight. Because
I mean, that's kind of impressive. That's the longest losing streak they've had of the season. Because, I mean, I feel like I've seen years where they lost 10 or more in a row.
Well, and the funny thing is the winning streak was about just as long. So up until they won 8 games in a row 2 times. But they're hitting their stride. They just, as of today, aren't going to make the playoffs if we, if the season ended today, we wouldn't make the playoffs. So
there's still time, though.
But yeah, you can't really think about that factor because the season isn't over. And there's still plenty of games to play. So just another, little trope that we have to go up against. But I think we'll be fine as far as our pitching and personalities in the clubhouse.
Gotcha. Yeah, I say stay positive till we have no reason to.
Which is honestly, moving on to football, I'll segue into that. I'm not really that worried at all, to be honest with you. I don't think we have a good chance of winning on Sunday, but I think this team is just going to be one of those Pete Carroll teams that sort of has to find itself early on in the year, and then it will hit their stride, but I'm not hitting the panic button just yet. The Bengals look terrible, and they are our Super Bowl contender. The Steelers, well, they looked really bad. I thought they would be better than they looked. They looked awful. The Giants, I knew that they sucked. Paying Daniel Jones was a mistake. Then the Jets, obviously, they're more than likely no longer a Super Bowl contender or even maybe a playoff contender. I don't know. It depends on how many interceptions Zach Wilson will throw this year. But
yeah, I mean, if they can just... The thing with the Jets, though, the reason why I think they're still a playoff contender, and we'll get to the Seahawks in just a moment here, but just a quick aside, they have such a good running game with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook and a really good defense to where, they can ugly a lot of games up, keep the score low, kind of how they did last night, and win as long as they limit the amount of turnovers Zach Wilson has. But if they just make him like a 20 attempt a game kind of guy, max throwing for like 200 yards, it could happen. He just can't be the thing that kills them, which could very easily happen. But
yeah,
if they could just get his turnovers under control and turn him into like a Jared Goff in his early years, they could make the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the soundbite of Peyton Manning when he was watching Zach Wilson last night, and he was like running around. Why does he run around so much?
I don't know.
He needs to stop doing that. Yeah, he thinks he's Lamar Jackson. Every play he's like, oh, Garrett Wilson's wide open, tuck it and run. But yeah, it was funny. Peyton Manning was watching Zach Wilson, and Eli was like, how many more throws do you think he's going to make this game? And Peyton was just like, 2.
Was it like the third quarter when he said that too?
Yeah, so I don't know if he meant throws completed or the coach is going to call 2 more run plays, but because honestly, the passing game was not. It was just, I hate watching those football games where, like, remember like the Seahawks, we played the Commanders on Monday night like 2 years ago. And we just couldn't get anything going offensively. But it was when we had Russ.
Yeah, it was that when we.
It was a Monday night game.
Like we got an onside kick to like try to win the game in the last second, and there was a penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was That was part of a very miserable stretch of being.
Yeah, so like offensive games like that are just so hard to watch, and I mean, especially if you have a fantasy player on your.
Yeah, we had a crazy fantasy matchup last night between the two of us. This guy had the Jets defense and
Stephon Diggs,
and I had Garrett Wilson with a big lead, and because of circumstances, it came down literally to the last play, won by less than half a point.
Yeah, I thought I had one too, because I didn't know what the score was of our game. I thought it was like 111 to something, but I didn't account for me losing points on that field goal.
Yeah, if you didn't have a... Yeah, it just was like a perfect storm.
Yeah, but that's kind of the way it goes. The week one and this weekend of sports was so bad for me in general that I kind of just laughed that off. Like, I'm just like, well, yeah... That's a cherry on top of the weekend for me.
I think it's another thing, like sort of like how we get excited for the preseason every year, and during the 8-month window of no football, you forget it's boring as fuck. Mm-hmm. I think every year we forget week one is chaos. Every year, almost like it's almost like a fourth preseason game. People say oftentimes because. Your starters haven't had meaningful live reps against an opponent that's trying to beat you really at all, especially the way teams are treating the preseason now. So you just see weird things happen. I think really the whole first month of this season, a lot of strange things are prone to happen. Like, remember, this is, I guess, 11 years ago now, but the Cardinals starting off 4-0 and then going 4-12. So many teams like get off on a little bit of a run early and then just get exposed as frauds. Or you have teams like the Lions last year that I think started like 2-7 or 1-6 or something terrible like that, and then they finished with the same record as the Seahawks, 9-8. So I think it's important not to overreact to week one. A couple of years ago, Green Bay, they got like fucking obliterated week one by who? Do you remember what I'm talking about? They played like the Browns or something. Or they played the Saints week one, I think, and lost like 30-3. I think it was when LaFleur was first coach.
Are you talking about the Packers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and then they ended up getting the top seed in the NFC, I think. So it's important not to overreact. All this to say, the Seahawks, the best thing they can do right now is just change their fucking diaper and try not to poop their pants next time. Because holy fucking shit. That was one of the worst performances I've seen out of a Pete. It was up there with the worst performances I've seen out of a Pete Carroll coach Seahawks team. Getting 3 yards of offense, I believe, in the second half. Giving up 250 yards of offense to Puka and Tutu. Running fucking laps around your secondary. Mike Jackson and Trey Brown looking like they should be on someone's practice squad or, working at a Jiffy Lube somewhere. Like, it was fucking bad. And the thing was, across the board on defense, it was like everyone forgot how to play fucking football. And I don't know if it's a new scheme thing or just, or what. I have a feeling it has mostly to do with the fact that we're running a new scheme with a bunch of new players playing together, and maybe they just overlooked these Rams. Maybe they looked at the fact that Cooper Kupp isn't playing, the fact that Stafford was hurt all of last year and we beat them twice. I don't know. I don't know what you can chalk it up to, but this team has too much talent to play the way they did on Sunday for 17 games. It just... I think you just got to throw this one away and just admit that, hey, the Rams showed up ready to play. Pete Carroll got outcoached up and down both sides of the ball. Jason Myers missed a field goal. It all just went to hell. It was a half from hell.
Well, I was looking at stats across the board, and again, week one, so I was kind of taking all of these numbers I was reading with a grain of salt, but... the Rams leading the league in third down percentages, 11 for 17.
I can believe that.
And Puka Nacua, 10 receptions in the league, tied for second best in the league.
Yeah, he basically just morphed into Cooper Kupp. And I guarantee you, he will not have a 10 reception day again this season. It's just like, and I guess I haven't given the Rams credit. They fucking played so hard on Sunday. On defense, their corners were just manhandling our receivers up and down the field, and the talent gap was obvious in the first half, but the effort was pro-ran all game. And on offense, that was the best game I've seen Matt Stafford play against the Seahawks. Going back to 2009 in his Detroit years, he was so sharp.
He didn't look like interception Matt Stafford. He looked like a field general out there.
He's always been interception. That's why I've always not thought of him as the top tier QBs, because he's got one of the best arms out there. Can just as far as tools for a quarterback, one of the best that's ever played, objectively. Right. But he always just makes some boneheaded throws where you're like, okay, there's good old Stafford throwing a pick. But he was putting the ball in razor-thin windows all game. I mean, there's a lot of points to be made about, are we playing too soft with our zone coverages? Are we, putting too much pressure on linebackers and whatnot to cover whoever in the middle of the field? Those are all fair arguments, but you got to just give credit where it's due. He just was so locked in on Sunday. And there was about 10 throws in particular where watching it live, you're pissed off that we gave up a third down conversion, because a lot of them were on third down, which was infuriating to watch. But you watch the replay, and our guy's right there. He's right where he should be, covering a receiver, and it's just a perfect fucking throw. And the receivers caught almost everything that was thrown their way.
I gotta give Stafford credit too, because I kind of sort of wrote him off in the offseason, thinking he was just injured, and I didn't really know what was wrong with him, so that's kind of my fault in not really understanding what injury he had. And then Baker Mayfield playing really well last year, kind of just, I don't know, I did sort of write them off and just blow past them, because remember, me, and Colby all picked them to win, I think by a landslide, week 1 when we made our predictions last week or 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah, I think I just, another note to throw out there is, for whatever reason, Sean McVay beats our ass like no other coach in the league. I don't understand it. Every time I feel like we've turned the tide, a game like this happens. I mean, no team has given the Seahawks more trouble, weirdly enough, going through regimes, all the way through Jeff Fisher, all the way to Steve Spagnuolo. There's something about the Rams rivalry that just transcends coaching and talent, to where the Rams just are a pain in the ass. Think of 2004 in the playoffs. Do these things matter? Do they actually correlate in reality? Probably not, but it's a thing.
Yeah. No, the Rams are so frustrating, and I hate their jerseys. They're generic, accidentally pressed A in Madden Creator jerseys that took 5 seconds to make.
Yeah, and they're 4 legitimate fans.
Yeah, they were let's look at the number fonts. Let's scroll down. Oh, the 4th option looks nice. Let's go with that. I hate the Rams.
Yeah, fuck the Rams.
But moving on to next week, or I guess if you have anything more to discuss.
About the game, I guess I've mostly talked about the defense. It can't be overstated on offense. Abe Lucas and Charles Cross are starting, stalwart to the offensive line, being out for virtually the entire second half. That's what happens when you have replacement level players out there at 2 of your most important positions. You get fucking 12 yards and a half or whatever.
It doesn't sound like it's too serious, though, from what Pete said. I don't know if he's just trying to downplay it because he's Pete.
I never trust Pete's injury updates because he's notoriously vague and optimistic. But here, I don't know if you saw this, we signed Jason Peters today.
Isn't he 40? Yeah.
41-year-old Jason Peters. I don't know. So here's the deal. They could have just looked at the performance of Stone Forsythe and Jay Curhan and been like, we can't have these guys play meaningful snaps at all, because look what happened. The Rams just loaded the box and were like, these guys are so shitty, Gino's not going to have enough time to even think. And it worked. So I think it's either A, they're just signing him as insurance to be the backup for either spot. So if those guys have to miss a couple games, or if they miss time down the road with like lingering effects from these injuries, they just have a guy who, though older, is going to be way better than those two to just, plug in that gap for X amount of time. Or one or both of them is actually legit hurt and going to be out a while. So he hasn't said anything specific about those guys yet, about how long they're going to be out. But I have heard the word degenerative in association with Abe Lucas's knee. That is not a good thing.
See, I didn't you say something like that he has a history of this knee issue?
Yeah, and that, that could be why we got him in the third round. I don't know. These are things you don't really think about. You kind of just focus on performance, but he didn't get injured during the game. It just was that knee issue he was flaring up, and he couldn't finish the game. So I don't know.
It's funny how in the off season, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I sort of forgot how depressed you get from seeing players that you like get injured and be done for a while. And like the Abe Lucas and the Charles Cross were the first like gut punches. And then obviously last night, that was super lame with Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers tearing his ACL.
Like immediately.
Yeah, we got like, honestly, it is kind of funny for Jets fans. They only got 4 fucking snaps of Aaron Rodgers, and then he was ripped away from them.
Did he even have a pass completion? I don't think he did.
No. I don't know if I think the only pass play he did was the play he got sacked.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
There's been a lot, like, the Tom Brady injury in 2008 comes to mind, but even that, like, it wasn't first pass attempt of the game. Like
for his new team.
Yeah. And the hype around the Jets and the signing of Aaron Rodgers has been like one of the biggest stories this entire offseason.
Yeah, they even got an HBO show to follow them and hype them up even more. So it's like...
It's fucking devastating. I can't imagine being a Jets fan, what a gut punch that must have been. Like
And you know what's funny? I remember, like, before the game last night, I saw, like, a Pat McAfee post, and it was, like, a quote from him being like, we might see the best Aaron Rodgers we've ever seen this year. And it's just, like, the actual opposite of that.
Yeah.
So it's just, like,
you're not going to see any Aaron Rodgers this year.
Yeah, and I don't know. Do you remember if the injury bug is, like, week 1, and then it kind of settles? Or is it, like, all over? I would like to look at a statistic
I
don't
don't know if the data on that points to any like specific pattern and timing of when most injuries happen. There's probably a huge spike during training camp, is my guess.
Yeah.
But I would feel like it's a fairly consistent rate throughout the season.
Well, because I would think if no one is playing in the preseason anymore, then we're seeing all these week 1 injuries. I'm curious to see how the next couple weeks is going to go.
I think in the early season there's a lot of like soft tissue stuff like hamstrings and cramping, stuff like that, just from not being in war mode. But beyond that, I don't have any information, I guess. But it's just like I'm not even a fan of Aaron Rodgers the human all that much. I could take him or leave him, but as a football fan, there's few things more exciting than watching that guy play quarterback. He does it like I think Mahomes is the only other quarterback in NFL history you can really place in the raw talent tier of Aaron Rodgers because his arm, his mobility, the angles he can throw at, and just the downfield accuracy he has. Like there's been few players like him in NFL history. Probably none, really. Like. Because Mahomes is sort of different in the style he plays in. But anyways, it just sucks as a football fan to not have him out there, even if I hate the Jets and I'm not particularly a big Rodgers fan.
Well, and God, that would have made that division so fun. Like, that division would have been last year's AFC West,
yeah, even
I
the
think.
Patriots looked pretty dang competent. Like,
they almost beat the Eagles.
Yeah. Mac Jones didn't look bad, dude.
I know.
Keyshawn Boot gets that foot down, they might have beat the Eagles. Like, it's very close. But I think one of the biggest takeaways from this week 1 was the NFL's the fucking NFL, and anything can happen any given Sunday. It's a trope. It's kind of annoying how often people say that, but look at how many games were just like bonkers this weekend, or just blowouts when you don't expect them to.
And really, you think about it, week 1 is like this every year because I don't know how many years I've gone back and like I've done a like survivor pool or something like that, and I'm like, oh, this is a certain game. The Drew Brees offense Saints are playing the Josh Freeman Buccaneers. I'll pick the Saints to win. That's certainly going to be a game that they'll win, and they lose. So it's like
24-7 or something.
Yeah, so it's just like that happens all the time in week 1. Like the Hall of Fame quarterback loses to Mitch Trubisky or something. Well, probably not, but that level of tier quarterback can just win sometimes in week 1, and it doesn't make any sense. But I'm wondering what the stat on like shitty teams that end up with a losing record, like what the percentages are of them winning in week 1 as compared to like throughout the rest of the season, because I would guess it's probably pretty high.
Yeah, well, I mean, just one last example before we move on from the subject. Think of just last year's opening day. The Bears beat the 49ers. The Bears were
they
were literally the worst team in the league last year, and the 49ers were a Brock Purdy injury away from maybe making it to the Super Bowl. So, there you go.
Which, God, I think they might.
What sickens me about watching the 49ers is they remind me a lot of the early 2010 Seahawks, the way they play defense. Like, I know schematically that's not the same, but just the way they rally to the ball and just attack, I feel like we haven't had a defense like that in so long, man, and I miss it.
I know. They certainly didn't look like that yesterday, even though Bobby had the most tackle. He's a tackle machine. He always has. I think he's leading the league in tackles right now with 19. Yeah.
So, I mean, but the thing is, and I guess before we move on to the Lions game, the things that genuinely concern me about the Seahawks are the trends that we saw in this game have been problems for us for fucking years now. And let me give you this stat. The Rams had the ball for 40 of the 60 minutes of the game. And I think we might have only ran 50 plays on offense the entire game. The Rams ran over 80. So time of possession has been a massive problem for us, and having that disparity, like if you're on defense the whole game, like if you're not giving up big plays constantly, you might look at that as a win. But if you're giving up every third down, if you're stopping the run but not getting off the field on third down, then stopping the run doesn't even fucking matter. And this was what the 2021 season was like the whole time, if you remember, where the Seahawks were, I think, top 5 in yards per carry allowed on defense. But they were so bad at getting off the field on third down, and the pass defense was so bad in general that it didn't fucking matter. We had a game against the Vikings that year that was really similar to this game against the Rams, if you remember, where it was like, I think same thing. Second half of that game, we were on offense for like 7 minutes, and long story short, the themes that were present for the bad in this game have been there for a long time, and that's through changing players, through changing the coaching staff, and people are starting to say, hey, the common denominator here is Pete. And I do, at a certain point, I have a harder time saying, no, it's this reason, it's that reason. And I don't want to be thinking that way, and I don't want to overreact to week 1, but these were problems for us in 2019. Matt fucking Schaub threw for almost 500 yards against us. In a game we won, but it's that fucking bend but don't break defense, man. It's just like, I feel like every team in the NFL now is content to just be like, all right, well, we're going to dump it off to the running back over and over again. We're going to throw these short, intermediate routes over the middle over and over again because you give it up every play. I don't know. I think they need to play with some more, like Clint Hurt, you gotta fucking nut up, dude. throw some blitzes out there, mix up your coverages, do more man. I take some risks. I'm willing to give up some more big plays if it results in one fucking sack, because we got none. And yeah, I guess to just wrap up, it's very clear that Devin Witherspoon is a need on this defense because Tariq was the only good cover guy out there in that secondary. And also it's very clear that we did not get that guy in the pass rush in the offseason that we were hoping for.
And I haven't really been liking what I've been hearing about Jalen Carter reports from Pro Football Focus and whatnot.
No, I don't think it's healthy for your mental health to look at his stat sheet because he's already looking like one of the best interior defenders in the league. But it was one game, and we didn't draft him. We got to just get over it, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah. No, it most certainly does not, and especially because Witherspoon is even practicing.
Yeah, he's going to play this week. Okay. I was going to say, like, to segue into the Lions game, having Witherspoon out there is going to be crucial for any hope of stopping Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I guess going into week 2, I would rather have us pissed off and embarrassed and wanting to, right the wrongs of the week before than riding high off an easy win that should have been an easy win.
It's almost like the opposite of last year.
Yeah.
We started off, we were written off, we beat the Broncos, and then the following week we got our ass kicked. It's like this year, they were written off, we got our ass kicked, and hopefully we're going to be written off against I said that a lot. That was an overly use of the word written off, but you get my message is that we're the underdog against the Lions
and big road underdogs at that.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I just generally feel like going back to day one of Pete becoming the coach, we've always played better as underdogs. I don't know, I don't have the data to point to that point I just made there and prove to you that it's true, but do you feel that way? Because I feel that way.
I feel like there's a sort of pressure when there's expectations, and when there's not, you can kind of play freely. And I think that we saw that with the Mariners this year when they struggled.
With the Rams Sunday. They had no pressure. People were picking them to be one of the worst teams in all of football.
Yeah,
and
so
Puka happened.
Yeah, it's almost better in really any sport, I think, if you fly under the radar all year and then all of a sudden everyone's afraid of you because you're dangerous and have nothing to lose. Whereas if you've got a roster full of guys who've gotten paid or are about to get paid, and then it becomes like all that more pressure to win because it all could come apart in that offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, and at least we're not the Giants.
They suck. Oh my god. Yeah, I can't believe how seemingly one-dimensional they are if you stop Saquon Barkley.
$40 million a year for that.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I'm so glad that we haven't made a move like that. I'm also, even if the Seahawks, just hypothetically speaking, aren't great this year, I'm fine with that because I still think we're a couple pieces away from being a contender, but we have so much awesome young talent on rookie contracts on this team, and we're not hamstrung. The biggest contract we have is Jamal Adams, and you can make all sorts of points about whether we should have done that. We shouldn't have, obviously, but I still think he's a great player. So,
yeah, I'm excited for him to come back.
And he's practicing in full this week, so I still think he probably has held out one more week, but Week 3, having Jamal Adams back there against the Panthers, let's say we're 0-2, I think that's a really good shot to go to get our first win of the season if we haven't already.
Is that a home game?
Yeah.
Okay.
But all that to say, transitioning into the Lions game preview, there's a chance Jamal Adams back, but having Devin Witherspoon making his NFL debut for sure just makes me feel so much better about that whole situation because I think the frustration that's been boiling up around him is just the fact that we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him in practice, didn't see him in the preseason, and then you have the guy that a lot of people wanted us to draft go out there and just immediately be dominant week 1. It makes people question that pick, but I think what's been forgotten in all that is how great of a player Devin Witherspoon was for Illinois, and I'm just really excited to see him go out there and play because he plays with that fire and that energy.
Fire in his gut.
He has that fire in his gut. He took the bus.
Did you?
He's a killer. Anyways, watch the Jonathan Gannon video if you haven't. It's horrible. He has that spark. Him and Jamal Adams both actually. They play with an energy that was sorely lacking on Sunday. I know
explosions, big plays. Sorry, all right, I got it out of my system. No more Jonathan Gannon
for now, but I think that is more of a factor for a Pete Carroll coach team than for your average NFL team because I feel like especially on defense we've historically been a team that tries to beat you with just pure like performance more so than X's and O's and matchups. Obviously that's not 100% true, but Pete has always kind of coached like in a way to just juice up his guys to motivate them and go have them like outperform players. That's a lot of how the Russell Wilson offense worked. Like think of beast mode. Like there wasn't a whole lot of strategy of just giving him the ball 30 times a game. It's because he knew eventually he's gonna, go crazy and break a big one. Mm-hmm. That's just what we would do. So, anywho, I think just having those guys out there is gonna make our defense, if nothing else, a lot more watchable. And that's all I want to see out of this Lions game. I don't really care. Like I want us to win. Don't get me wrong, and I think we have a chance. But I just want to see us look like a real NFL team for 4 quarters because we got 1.5 last week.
Ryan, don't you remember last season when we were like playing that stretch of games where I can't remember who it was, but we played like 2 teams and then we played the Chargers or something and we won a couple games in a row. Yeah. And our defense was playing pretty good during that stretch, if I'm correct. And that's kind of why I'm also not panicking yet because I feel like I saw this already. Like I feel like I've seen this story play out so many times where we look absolutely horrible in the beginning of the year defensively. We kind of figure it out, and then we end up either making the playoffs and miss it by 1 game or losing the division round, what have you. But that's kind of why I'm not worried is because we have an offense this year that we haven't had in those years past that I feel like it'll balance itself out. Everything will come together. People will get chemistry with one another on defense, and I just think things have a way of working themselves out. And week 1 is just a bad sample size, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would say my counter to your point you just made is that I'm really fucking sick of having to have a big defensive adjustment every year. Like why can't we just get our shit together in the offseason and not be the worst defense in the league for like 4 weeks? It's just frustrating. But I agree. I think it's way too early to make any sort of judgment about, I would say any team, but I think it's pretty clear which teams are, playing for Caleb Williams this season.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're one of those teams. So I think, if they play 2 more games like they did in the second half against the Rams, then yeah, I think it's time to, have some serious talks about this team's future. But I don't think it can get any worse than what we just did. Considering the opponent we were playing, it doesn't get any more embarrassing than that is what I'm trying to say. So we have only up from here.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. I don't think it's gonna be pretty on Sunday. Although I just feel like the Seahawks surprise me every week. It could be one of those weird games where we just come out and we went into Detroit and beat them last year. So
yeah, we put up the last 2 times we played against them, we've averaged 50 points.
And we're we're a better team today than we were a year ago. Mm-hmm. So,
assuming we have our tackles in, if we go out there with Stone and Jay Curran, we are losing by 2 or 3 scores. I'm just gonna say that right now. But
yeah, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be in the backfield all game.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because I feel like before that happened, Kenneth Walker was having a fantastic game, and we got behind, stopped running the ball, drives stalled, and it was like, I don't know. I think this offense, this works for most teams, but when we have a balance of run and pass, and mostly when we're not, I think one of the big things that got us off rhythm against the Rams is we started doing the run, pass on first, second, and third down, and like, how many fucking years of evidence do you need to see before you stop doing that? Shane, because he was doing great the first couple drives there, and then, after we blocked the field goal, it was run, third down, throw away, drives over. That happened for like 2 drives, and it reminded me of, like, again, the dreaded 2021 season a bunch. So I think the Seahawks, when they're throwing on early downs and running mostly on like second down and just playing to avoid third down is when this offense functions the best, in my opinion. But yeah, I think, JSN had a drop. Quandre missed some tackles out there. You had Geno missing a wide open Jake Bobo, which was tragic because I think the entire city of Seattle would have had an earthquake in excitement had we had a Bobo deep pass TD game 1. Maybe we get a game 2. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is across the board, like almost every single player on the team had a bad game, like an uncharacteristically bad game.
Yeah, Trey Brown looked like Trey Flowers.
Yeah, exactly, and not the defensive lineman Trey Flowers. I don't think that's gonna happen again. I think they're gonna, nut up, focus, and just come out with a much better level of execution against the Lions. And will that result in a win? I think it's gonna result in a 1-score game. Is my prediction.
I still think we lose, but I do think we come out not flat. And we come out attacking the ball on defense and on offense, for that matter. Hopefully we come out passing. I think we should pass the ball.
I agree.
Because fucking the Lions need to prove to me that they can play defense. And I mean, I guess they did last week, but Kadarius Toney was their best defensive player. So.
Like, let's be real. If Kadarius Toney was almost any other receiver in the league for that one game, the Chiefs win by 10 points, likely. So
yeah.
I'm not trying to take away what the Lions did. It was really impressive, but even they would have to admit that if they're being honest.
You would have lost to me in fantasy if Kadarius Toney didn't do that. So again, like, thanks
KT.
Yeah, I was gonna call him KD, but then I was like, wait, that's not even like the end of his name. There's still more to say.
In Kadarius, though. So I get it. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna say we win. I'm gonna say we win 34-31.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's gonna be a shootout like last year, but I think we lose.
I can live with that. As long as. I want to see us look like a functional NFL organization for 4 quarters. And if we win from that, great. If not, I think we definitely win the next week and then start stacking some W's. But we can't be having constant 3-and-outs. We can't be giving up every third down. If we do that again, I'm going to be a lot less positive on the next podcast. That's for sure.
All right. Well, you've been warned, Seahawks.
You got anything else for this one?
No, that's pretty much it. Other than hopefully we can stop the duo in the backfield and Amon-Ra. So.
Yeah. I guess before we sign off, one encouraging thing from the Rams game, we did stop the run pretty well. They averaged less than 3 yards a carry, so I think that'll help us out against the Lions a little bit. But if they just throw over the middle 150,000 times again, then it's not going to make much difference. But we'll see. That remains to be seen.
Yes.
So anyways, thanks for listening once again on the JR Takes podcast. We will catch you on the next one.
Yes. Thanks for listening.